Hi everyone, this is Culture Mapping and your hosts, Konstantin, that's obviously me, and Anastasia.
Hi, in this podcast inspired by the book Culture Map, we are interviewing people from various backgrounds to learn more about their culture and their life, and their businesses.
How the social environment affects your views and the path you take. Culture mapping is our own way, to reflect on how to live a global life in such a fragmented world.
Today, our guest is an inspiring lady of Indian origin who was born and grew up in South Africa. Sandhya has told us the story of 3 generations of her family and how living in apartheid times not only didn't kill her entrepreneurial spirit, but in fact made it blossom.
And now it's time to remind you about the sponsor of this season. It's Flower Wow, the marketplace where it's easy to find gifts for your loved ones. And we started thinking, what are the best and worst gifts in different cultures? As we found out from Sandhya, the best present to South African is to select something dear to your culture, food or souvenir, as South Africans do value traditions a lot. If you're looking for a present, I suggest you go on Flower Wow. It's operating in 30 countries worldwide. You can select whatever you think is perfect from hundreds of local shops. The seller always sends you a photo of the goods for approval before handing the goods to the courier. And the killer feature for me is that you don't need to know the exact address of the recipient. All you need is his or her name and phone number. On the day of delivery, Flower will send a message to the recipient and clarify all the necessary information. So if you've never tried Flower, this is the right moment. Download the app with the link in the episode notes and use our promo code CULTURE, it's CULTURE, to get a 15% discount on any order. It's valid until December 2024.
I guess we just jump in. We start from here.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Sandhya. Welcome. Welcome to Culture Mapping. We're very happy to have you here. And I believe the first thing we want to ask you is very simple. Just tell us about yourself. How would you describe yourself and what you do?
Hi, Anastasia. Thank you so much for having me. This is so interesting. There's so much about me. So I think maybe you need to be a little bit more specific on what exactly and where exactly you'd like me to start.
You can actually start saying your name, what do you do, and actually how do you define yourself when people ask you to present yourself.
Okay, my name is Sandhya Laloo-Morar. I'm a costume designer/designer, and I run a sustainable clothing brand called the Ido Movement, which is for movers and dancers. And my background is fashion design, so I have a master's degree in fashion and about 25 years of experience in design. I've been in the UAE for 13 years. And before that, I lived in South Africa. And I used to be a lecturer at the University of Johannesburg. And I used to do many fashion shows. And my whole life has been centered around design, creativity, and a little bit about my life. I grew up in South Africa in the 1980s. And as I was just telling Konstantin before we started this podcast, my great-grandparents moved to South Africa about 150, 160 years ago. And they came as traders, on the boat, to work in the sugarcane plantations and things. I also come from a long line of tailors. So everybody in my family also are very good at sewing. So it was our trade back in India. And we still have family there. But my great-grandparents moved to South Africa 150 years ago. My great-grandmother then had her kids in South Africa, and then my parents were born, also in South Africa. So we have 3-4 generations of living in South Africa. And the very interesting part is around the 1940s to 50s, 60s, 70s, there was new government in South Africa, which was apartheid government. And that's why I am the color I am, although I was South African. We all were separated because of apartheid, so on your skin tone. So black, white, Indian, or colored, which is a mixed race between black and white, were all segregated. It was illegal to actually meet or come in contact. And if you did, you'd be arrested. So it was
So you couldn't even communicate with your peers from...
You basically didn't know them. There was white-only areas, and that's it. So you weren't allowed to go to swimming pools or malls or university or anything. It was only for white people, which is seems so backward if you think about it in this day and age. And that only ended in 1998. By that time, I was already 18 years old. So my whole schooling, we had our own schools, our own community, and I only saw brown people. So By the time I got to university, I mean, we all tried to do like a little bit of illegal things. So my parents even couldn't study at the university. So my dad, at the time when he had finished high school, decided he's going to jump on a boat, go back to India. He spent 3 months on a boat to go back to India, and he studied to become a doctor. He studied medicine because he wasn't allowed to do it in South Africa. My mom, on the other hand, went to an island to study, and she studied social work, then came back to South Africa. So then my dad studied in India, and being the creative person that he is, he was always interested in dance and music, but obviously he needed to pay bills, so like he had the brain for it, so he became a medical doctor. And then after 7 years of studying, he held a degree in his hand and he thought, this is not me. I want to be and I want to do other things. But obviously he had to pay the school fees, the bills and things, so he just took a job in the hospitals. By that time, they were allowed to work in some of the hospitals for the government. He worked in one of the biggest hospitals in South Africa, basically met my mom, got married, had us, and then he decided he's really interested in dance and music, and in India he had done so many and seen so many shows. So he started his own dance school in about in the 1980s, 1990s.
So he was combining
70s,
the dance school and the job at the hospital.
Yes. So basically what he did was during the day, he worked as a medical doctor, and at night he ran a dance school.
But he ran a dance school, but was he also a dance teacher?
He was a dance teacher. So basically he, from a young age, was always interested in dance. When he went to India, he explored that more. In India, you can do, I think it is now as well, when you go to school, you can choose your subjects, extracurriculars, and he was not interested in sports. So he explored a lot of dance, watched a lot of theatre, experimented with shows, and started teaching dance. So when he came back to South Africa, he wanted to do that more.
Why did he decide to go back to South Africa? I mean, when you spend your university years somewhere, you maybe want to spend your life there when you finish the university. So basically in India, if he graduated. So why did he decide to go back to South Africa?
I think mainly family, because he's the eldest of, at that point, 6 kids. So he was the eldest son, and he needed to go back and also to pay back the money that my grandfather had loaned for him to go and study. And obviously, rupees wouldn't have cut it back then either, and the South African rand was quite strong. So he came back and he paid off that debt, and it was mainly for family. Also, I think it's culturally, that's what we do. I think it's like you look after your parents after you've graduated, and you just basically see to them until they expire. So I think that's the way you would think about it. So yeah, then he started his dance school in South Africa in our little community. And because there was nothing, okay, so it was apartheid, we weren't allowed to go. I started at 6 to go to a ballet school, and there was a white teacher there. And she was arrested because it was illegal for her to teach us ballet at age 6. That was my only exposure to ballet at such a young age. But it was only for white people to do ballet. So what my father did then was he tried to merge, because the fact that we weren't Indian and we weren't South African, we were in between, we were these, we didn't relate to being Indian because we were born in South Africa and we spoke the language. For me, I speak English and Afrikaans. I don't speak an Indian language. I can understand it, but I don't speak it because we were just brought up that way that we needed to speak English and speak Afrikaans. But the interesting part was he came back and in our community started doing shows. And it grew. We had 700 kids in our school. We had annual shows. So after he left the hospital, he decided when we were born, my siblings are 3 of us, that he would have his own private practice. But in rural areas of Johannesburg. It wasn't mainstream, so he would only see patients till around 3 p.m. and then come home and then run dance schools at night. So he didn't want to stay close. He didn't want to have his surgeries close to home for the simple reason is he didn't want to see patients at night. So he could run his dance school, which was amazing because we had 3 classes a week. We had Saturday morning classes, and the whole community learned how to dance and learned about music and our culture through dance. He ran that for 35 years. We had annual productions. He only stopped the school in COVID because he had COVID twice. So it was really, really interesting, like upbringing. So my mom sewed the costumes. My dad created the dance pieces. And there was I growing up amongst feathers and fur and sequins. And I was like, I need to study design now. So, and it wasn't foreign because when my dad knew that I was actually interested in being a fashion designer, he was like, go for it. Do whatever you want, because he knew when he studied to become a doctor, that wasn't what he wanted at the end of the day. So he encouraged me to do what I wanted. And I studied fashion design at the University of Johannesburg. I later became, at 21, a lecturer at the university. And then I finished my master's in thinking I wanted to become a lecturer and stay on and do a PhD. But life took a turn and I ended up in Dubai.
Why did you decide to be a lecturer back then?
The thing is, I was a very good student and they offered me a job. So I was like, why not? It's the University of Johannesburg. I'm 21. And it was on a part-time base, which was really great because I didn't have to lecture every day. I worked like 3 times a week. And then I ran my own company. So I had many other labels during that time. And I also was making thousands of costumes for my parents, my father's dance school, and doing dance classes at night. So it's kind of what I'm doing right now as well. So, and I think that just sparked my interest in like the possibility of stage and understanding what performance is about and putting on shows, lighting, backstage, everything. And we did it all to the point where we danced for President Nelson Mandela. We danced at the All Africa Games. We used to dance everywhere, even on TV. We used to be almost like every event we would be there, like international, local, whatever, because then this was post-1998 where things started opening up. So, and Nelson Mandela was the president at the time. So we had so much more opportunity and we could show our South African Indianness. And I think that was, for us, our identity, because growing up in apartheid, we didn't know where we belonged. We're like, are we Indian? Are we South African? Like, where do we fall in this category? Because any form you filled in, it was, you needed to tick, are you black, white, or Indian? Like, we Indian, but we South African Indian, So there was this not so clear idea of where we fell in the spectrum of the world, And then when I was around 30 years old, over the hill, according to Indian standards, I needed to get married. So when I got married, like I was almost 30, and then my husband was like, he needs to move to Dubai. And I was like, it's never going to happen. You just keep saying we're going to move, we have to do this. And we got married December. February, he got the call, he needed to move to Dubai. I was like, okay, let's just do it. It's going to be a 2-year stint, no issues. We'll be back. We had bought our house in South Africa. It had a studio for me to work from. It was close to the university. Like, my whole life was already set out, like exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to lecture, I'm going to run my label, I'm going to do the costumes, I'm going to do the dance. That's it. This is me for the next 50 years. And then, boom. Dubai is on the plate. And then we just moved. So my husband is in telecoms and he got moved with his company back then, which was MTN, which is also like in a lot of countries. And I came here and I was completely lost because this is me having no job, no company, no car, no friends. And I had to start from scratch. So it took a long time. At that time, I started doing my master's online with my university in South Africa, thinking in 2 years' time, I'll come back, I'll just start lecturing again, happy days. And at the time when I moved to Dubai, there wasn't any fashion universities here. The only jobs I could get was in Saudi, and they kept on headhunting me to come there, but obviously I couldn't because my husband's job was here. And I thought, okay, let me just finish my master's, and then 2 years will pass. I'll graduate and we move back to SA. And that didn't happen because after 2 years, it became 3, 4, and now 13. And it was amazing to see how Dubai grew. Like, it was just so much of sand when we came. And there wasn't, everybody dressed the same. And this is me coming from the fashion world who had yellow shoes on and green trousers and purple hair. And I was like,
purple hair.
I had every color hair under the sun.
Now we want pictures.
And Anastasia that knows me now knows that I only wear black. And it was really, really, like, I just felt like, where am I? Because everybody just wore high-end things. Slowly, because I finished the master's, then I started putting out my CV. And then I spoke to some people about, listen, I'm a fashion designer. This is what I do. But I didn't want a fashion label. And then I started styling for campaigns and shoots.
But why didn't you want to have a label since you were doing your own label back South Africa?
So in South Africa, I had my own setup, like my own machinist, my own atelier. And to start it here, I just had no clue. Like we're talking in 2009, 2010, where things weren't so easy to get the way it is now. Where do I find these things? Who do I connect with? How do I find a tailor? And I did try. So I even went to India to see if I could find a factory there because I didn't know any factories here. There wasn't many manufacturing places here. I couldn't hire someone full-time to work for me because of visa situation. I needed, a premises to work from. It's not as easy in a new country to start, and especially it was 2010. I don't think Dubai was very geared up for starting your own business, especially as a creative coming from South Africa. With South African rand, of course, it didn't help the situation. So, and that wasn't really working. So then I fell into styling and advertising campaigns. So I worked for many companies doing shoots. Was the most amazing 10 years of my life. I saw so much of Dubai, shot with Nicole Kidman 2 times. It was amazing. Now if I look back, I was like, wow, super impressive stuff that I think I was involved in. Completely loved that. But then I just felt like this hole that I'm buying these clothes and I'm just steaming it, and I have all the skills and I have, I'm not using my skill set. And I thought, it's just not working. About 3-4 years ago, I thought I'm going to make, before COVID, I thought, I'm done. I now have my kid. I can't be sitting 18 hours on set. It's completely exhausting me. I'm getting old. And I don't have the energy of a 20-year-old, so I don't have this wake up at 3 a.m., go to set, wait for the sun to rise, and then 20 hours later drive home. I was just I couldn't do it anymore. My kid was so young. I thought, I have one only. I should, give him all the attention I can. And, they grow so fast. So it's I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to really think about what I want to do. And they say, life starts at 40. So I think around 40, and it was COVID, I started toying with this idea that, okay, who am I? I'm Sandhya. I'm a designer and a dancer. I'm taking these 2 things and I'm going to focus on them. And I joined many dance schools, met so many amazing people. And then just from the way I used to dress or say what things I did, I started getting orders make me this, make me that. And I thought, okay, I'm working with all these amazing creatives again. And I finally felt the magic is back, because for many years I felt something is missing. The magic is not there. And I felt right now, this is the right time. I'm so inspired by all these amazing people that are around me. I'm making them beautiful costumes. I'm getting involved in amazing projects. And it's my creativity. It's not something that I'm buying and putting there. And I must thank Ala Krimid from Sima Dance Company, because he opened that door for me to creativity. And I felt like this was home, because it's exactly what my dad was doing in South Africa, now in Dubai. But the main thing is I just go for my personal self and I meet the most amazing people there. And again, being inspired by them, and then starting the Ido movement in 2020, 2021. It's all about dance and movement. And the Ido movement is basically the Japanese word for shift. And people ask me, why did I call it Ido? So my master's is in Japanese design. And at the time, I just like the simplicity of Japanese designers. My whole master's, I spent 3 years on it, was on Japanese design and why they use black and what the significance of it was. And then I started my whole black era, as Anastasia knows very well. And it was so mind-blowing just to start creating each piece inspired by a dancer, a person that I've met. Because when I go to class, that's when my brain starts working to say, visualizing this person in this look or this feel, or they would be really spectacular if they wore this. And that's how I started designing the clothes and the collection which is, again, slow fashion. It's got nothing to do with trends. It's all got to do with what I feel at that time and what I'm attracted to. And then I thought I wanted to be something of worth, because every other label I've had before was not high fashion, but like just another fashion brand. And although I did so much of that in South Africa, I just felt like we're not doing anything different. It needs to be like, we need to think about the earth. We know what's happening. We know it's global warming. And just started digging deep into this whole, what is sustainability? What does it mean? How can I be part of it? Like, I just want to do something that meant something.
What is sustainable for a brand?
So what is sustainable for a brand? Like the fabric that it's made of, the factories that you use, and your carbon footprint. So for me, that's the main one. And there wasn't any. Every brand that was out there that was a dance brand didn't have any of those attributes to them, especially on fabric. And then I would just kept researching fabrics and all of that, and came, found a whole lot of different ones that I could use that would make good dancewear. And that's how it's just a passion project that I've decided, I'm going to go full on and just do this, because I don't want to wake up one day and say, I should have. It was the oddest thing. I think people always say timing is everything. And it was COVID. I had so much time to sit and look and figure out what I wanted to do. I researched, I designed, I had no FOMO. I had just me and my work. And then a friend of mine had called me and said, listen, my university is doing something with Virtue Zone. They're looking for female business owners who want to do a startup. Do you think you'd be interested? And you got to attend some online workshops with them. I was like, oh, sure, I have time. Let me do that. And I basically logged on every week for about 6 weeks to listen to what they said and how you start up a business in UAE and this and that. And I thought, I had saved up so much of my money from all the styling jobs. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to give it a go. Let's just see where it goes. I mean, we did struggle in the start. Like when I say we, my husband was like reading the fine print. It's not for me to do. I'm a creative. I don't read the fine print.
Do you remember the first time when you told your husband that you're going to open a business? What did he say?
He's like, go for it. See what, because he knew, we knew each other many years. And it's funny because he used to see me in the newspapers in South Africa. Because back then I used to be always on TV, in the newspapers as a fashion designer, also of Indian origin, because that time the South Africa was opening up to the world about now we have past apartheid, who are the upcoming people, designers, this and that. So I used to do so many fashion shows, and I won many awards. I mean, I even won the Nelson Mandela Young Designers Award. They sent me to London for London Fashion Week. I used to be on a TV show called So Fabulous. I used to be the resident stylist. So I had a whole career as a stylist on TV, throwing people's clothes around. It's a whole different world. I think back, it's I can't even understand how many years has passed from that. And there used to be a lifestyle program in South Africa called Top Billing. And I think it's still on. And they would interview young designers coming out of South Africa. I used to be on the stage with all the designers that are there now, David Tale and so many. And some of them were even my students at the university. So it's nice to look back and see how far I've come and where I've come, and put myself on an international stage, because I don't know if I would have the same opportunities back home. I mean, till to this day, I still get some schools in South Africa asking me to do their costumes. They also perform internationally, so it's really nice to still have that, because I think what's important to understand is I don't hate that I grew up in South Africa and I didn't know where I came from, but I think it helped me so much because it prepared me for this international stage, because my background is so different. Growing up in apartheid, understanding the Indian culture, understanding the African culture, understanding my community, and then bringing that to Dubai, it's very different. Because I'm still my own kind of person. I'm my own breed. I'm not pure South African. I'm not Indian. I'm my own mixture. But all those experiences that I've had has really shaped in what I'm doing now. For example, like I did one of the biggest movies, the costume designer for Bilal, New Breed of Hero, which was about Bilal's first call of prayer. And it needed someone who understood African, who understood Arab, Indian, Persian history. And I think there was no one else that could understand that, to actually find that and merge that. It was in 2015. It was the biggest animated movie coming out of the UAE at the time. And it's still doing really well. They've taken it through the world. And it's really nice to know that I had the opportunity to work 7 months on their costumes as their sole costume designer. So I think all these experiences has just molded me into being who I am and actually just following my gut. But then again, it wouldn't have happened had I not taken that leap and just said, okay, yeah, let's just go to Dubai for a year, 2 years, let's see what happens. Just trusting that instinct and meeting the most incredible people. And I think now that even now I have a 8-year-old son, and I think he's so fortunate. He learned so much about different cultures. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we had International Day at the school. And it was amazing to see the diversity in the school, like even in his class, I think 24 kids, 17 different nationalities. And they learned so much from each other that would help him so much on the global stage when he gets older, because he'll understand everything about different cultures, different people, because at the end of the day, you're getting it firsthand. And that has just opened his mind to so much. And I think that's why also we have no intention to move. To me, I'm like, finish your schooling, live this global life. The safety aspect is one of the major things. I mean, I grew up in South Africa, so I know that it would not be possible. Like, come 6:30, you lock your door and you stay indoors. And we used to drive a lot because, again, we were in apartheid. We weren't allowed to live in the city center or near the universities. So we kind of lived in our own little township very far away. So the commute, I even said to my nephew that's staying with us now, to think that I wasted 4 hours a day just commuting to campus and back because of the traffic and just how far it was. It's insane just to think that you would waste 4 hours of your day just traveling. The convenience of 10 minutes to school, public transport, safety, job opportunity, and also like creating something like that's completely different. I can see the brand growing every day. I can see like people are interested, they are liking, and you get that first-hand feedback because Dubai is as big as it is, it's so small. Like everybody knows everybody. And I think that's also a really interesting aspect of living here. It's like, although you're so diverse, you all know each other somehow.
Just to dig a bit in the history of emotions about the apartheid. So as far as I understand, you entered the university when apartheid went down, pretty much?
Yes, so basically I finished school 98, and that's the year that 1997 and 1998 apartheid ended.
How did it feel? It felt a bit awkward or revealing? Like how was it emotionally?
We were all celebrating it. Like, we were so excited that we finally can go to university, right? Nelson Mandela was the president at the time, right? We were on the world stage, and his speeches were so inspirational that we were just thriving at that time. So the world knew us because of him. All I could have wished for, if he had just served 2 terms, I think we would have been in a better condition. But he was super old by the time he had got out of jail. But the thing, it was such a positive time. Like, we were all emotional, we were all excited. The world had opened up to us, so there was so much going on. And again, like, I made so many friends back then. To this day, like, my one friend, she lives in the UK now. She was my first white friend, and we joke about it because we've known each other now for over 2.5 decades. And she also, after we had finished studying, she said to me, come with me to London. You will love it. Again, now coming from a home where we're not, again, culturally, it's not, you don't leave home. You just don't leave home. So I said to my parents, like, listen, I want to go to London to work. My friend Jackie is going. I want to go with her. And my dad was like, okay, because, he left home as well. So he knew what I was talking about. And I wanted to do a 2-year stint in London, and he was like, he needed to fill in the forms, and he put there 6 months. But fortunately, we had family who lived in central London. So he was like, oh, it's fine. You can go on condition you stay with family. I was 21 at the time. I was like, it's fine, whatever. As long as I'm central London, I'm fine. My aunt had triplets. I was 21, the boys were 14. And we were like quads then. Okay. And I worked in Harrods, Selfridges. I would meet Jackie in the park. We did like research. I did a whole tour of Europe on my own then when I finished my 6-month stint. And then I came back to South Africa like with a plan. I need to get out of here one day. You know, because I'd seen the world now. I spent 1 month traveling Europe on my own, did a Kontiki with a whole bunch of strangers, and I thought, I basically came home, then started working a bit, and when the opportunity came to say, leave again, I was like, yeah, I did it before. I can do it again.
So you were mentioning that your family moved like 150 years ago from India to South Africa. And also you've mentioned several times that you still keep some Indian heritage. And you've mentioned that, for example, this is one very important thing is taking care of family. Yes. What else? What else are the, let's say, the Indian heritage things that you have preserved in your family or you want to preserve?
Well, I think it's important for my son to kind of know his roots. I think it's more about being like not so much, you know, like back home, we were taught, you know, you pray, you do this, you fast, you eat only these things on these days. When I came to Dubai, a lot of that kind of got lost, like the way I dress, you know, cultural days, you know, so certain things, I must say, doesn't make sense anymore. But the essence of looking after like the elderly, respect, you know, like general things like the heritage of kind of knowing where you come from. So I say to my son, like, do you know, religion is not a big thing, but to know like what we kind of follow. So we are Hindu, but we do, like, for me, I'm not so into like prayer and things, but I'm into meditation. So kind of instilling something so it's not completely lost, but he kind of understands where that comes from. And also, like, we didn't give him an Indian name because we didn't want to cause that confusion. We gave him a Japanese name to confuse him more. So you see, the thing is, because people hear my name when they instantly think I'm from India. And it bothered me for a long time because I'm like, no. I think that stuck with me because, again, grown up in apartheid and community, it's expected that you only marry within your community, okay? And as backward as it sounds, that's how I met my husband. Like, we were introduced.
By families?
Yes.
They agreed that they would have you meet each other? Or like how it goes?
Funny enough, his sister was my school teacher. Usually, culturally, by 25, you should be married. I was already almost 30. So there was pressure. Around 27, I was introduced. I went to perform at the school show, at my high school show, met my old teacher. She was like, hey, I see you everywhere, blah, blah, blah. So when are you getting married? Like, when I find a nice boy.
I have one.
And that was it. She did. That's what she thought. And then I was alone one day at home, doing my design, busy cutting. Doorbell rings. It's his father at my door. And he came to see my parents, but my parents weren't home. So I answered. I was like, hi. Greeting, like, that's another thing. We do greet. We are very respectful. We would still, even my kid, he would greet in the appropriate language and all of that. And he asked me where's my parents. I was like, they're not here. But I'll tell them that you came. I'm like, okay, fine. My parents came home, told them, rang him up. What? Oh, okay. And then that time, my husband was actually in Iran touring. Because that's what normal people do, right? They tour Iran on their time off. Okay.
But did he know that his parents are arranging something, or he didn't know?
No, he didn't know.
Okay.
He didn't know.
It is good. It's like delegated. The task is delegated.
Yes. And kind of just gave my phone number. I said, fine. And it wasn't the first time. I mean, oh my God, there were so many. Like, it's like, it's expected. If my grandfather came to me and said, listen, I want you to meet my friend's son, I couldn't say no. I have to say yes. I can say no after, but I'm culturally appropriate to say yes. Although I can sit there and want to stab myself, I have to sit through it And I mean, it was some of them had 2 toes in the grave. And I just had to sit there with a smile. And it was just normal. And not only for me, for many other people, for many of my friends even. But yeah, and then it messaged me and he was coming back in 6 weeks. And we kind of were friends for like 2 years. And then I was like, we actually click. Okay, cool. And then because my father was like, it's been 2 years. If you're not interested, don't waste his time.
But this, even though it sounds like a bit an old-fashioned way of like setting things up, this made me think, because I think about my friends who are crying to me like, I can't find a boyfriend. Maybe we should start doing introductions again. I mean, if they're not,
yes.
If it is not forcing, because what you tell, it doesn't sound like they were like, okay, look, this guy, you marry. Like they were like showing, look, I have a guy.
Like that. Yeah, but my parents were like that. And also my mom, at the time, she was introduced to many and she had refused. And then eventually she found my dad. And the same thing with me. Like I was introduced to many and he probably was introduced to many as well. I don't know. Never asked. But the thing is, it's because you understand like the community was very close. And again, in each community, you kind of have your trade. So his family trade is the same as my family trade in the old-fashioned caste system. Now it doesn't exist, but at the end of the day, you kind of know the family. Had I met my husband in any other circumstance and he told me he had 5 sisters, I say, are you crazy? But because I knew the family, and his sister was my school teacher who gave me hell, okay? I tell it till today. But the thing is, we have a very good relationship because our parents know each other. They hang out together, okay? And if I need something, I can just phone them and say, hey, can you just sort something for me? And it would be like phoning a friend or phoning like close-knit family. So you can rely on. I can say that. Like even now, like his nephew's with us. And it's no issue. It's like, you want to come for 6 weeks? Sure, the door's open. No, it's going to be a problem. Because if I had to ask the same for my son, they would not say no. Like how when I went to London for 6 months, who would open the door for 6 months? In London, central London, and give up your bedrooms for like 6 months for your second cousin to come visit you, So I think that's the part where you're never alone in the world. And although I have only one child, I feel like he will never be alone because he has cousins. And I think that's something that comes from our culture, our background, and also understanding that we come from a very close-knit community. And it's even today, like if I speak to my parents, they're like, I haven't lived in South Africa for 14 years. And I'll still get like, how's Sandhya doing? Where's she now? What's she doing? People will still ask the questions of how are you doing when they haven't seen you in like over a decade.
There are a lot of South Africans in Dubai. I mean, I know a lot of people. What do South Africans usually move to Dubai for? Like what kind of job or maybe they want to start a business? What's their motivation?
I think a lot of them move because of safety, and a lot of them are in like teaching or like technology. The Indian ones, South African Indians, again, like I was saying, growing up, because we also grew up in apartheid, it was you need to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant. So a lot of, in my generation, like thank God my dad was like, do whatever you want, although he had studied medicine. It's usually if your dad's doing medicine, you do medicine. Like you see that amongst all my friends as well. Their parents are doctors, they are doctors, their kids are doctors. It's just one of those things. You don't go with what you feel. But so a lot of them that come now that are in their 40s, like with technology or engineers or like teachers and stuff, because that's what will pay the bills.
Is entrepreneurship considered, like is it promoted in families or it's more like a risky thing?
There's a lot of family businesses that they do have. So I know a few families that have moved here that ran family businesses there. They have opened family businesses here. And I think they also find it easier because South Africa is at the bottom of the map. To do transportation, it doesn't make sense. Like I know when I was running my own company and if I wanted to import fabric or anything, the cost of just getting it from, say, wherever in the world was just so much because South Africa is on the tip of Africa, right? It was just super expensive. Whereas being based in Dubai, like I work with factories all over the world, shipping is no issue. Things don't get lost. You can track it to your doorstep. So I think location is everything, and convenience. I think we discussed something about like communication, how easy it is to communicate with different countries and cultures and things. Dubai makes it super easy. For me, I still think, and I've had this conversation with my husband many times, yes, I have a crappy passport. Okay, a South African passport doesn't get us many places. But I'm hopeful that in years to come, my kid will get something from here. Because I don't want to move to another country to change my passport. I really don't. I love living here. I love the energy. Like every day it's something different, and you feel energized and you meet the most incredible people. This whole week I've been actually reflecting because of my nephew being around, and he was saying, it's so nice to just see people walking around freely during the day. And then you take it for granted because we've been here for so long. And that everything is just 10 minutes. Like Ryu's classes are just 10 minutes from here. His coaches are so amazing. They give so much of effort. Like the level of excellence that you're getting, like the training, like say for us, for instance, I don't think I'd get it in my home country, right? So my dad wasn't a qualified dancer. So we just got what he knew. But now when we think about Sima, it's like they are such international standard dancers, right? For my own son, he goes to Muay Thai. He's like trained by a Muay Thai 200 championship belt, whatever, fighter, right? And then when I see, like, I make costumes for all these little kids and see their coaches and see the amount of passion they have, I'm like, wow, this is just incredible. Just that energy of seeing that. It's not far. It's not out of reach. It's right there on your doorstep. And coming from not having those opportunities back home and just having like our little dance school, we didn't have, like I said, ballet teacher was going to get arrested. We didn't have piano. We didn't have these things that are Western, if you understand what I'm saying, because we knew how to sew, we knew how to cook, we knew how to pray, but we didn't have these skills of like piano or music or gymnastics, because that's the Western culture. And now my kid is exposed to so much. I think, like, I see him grow and I think, wow, you have so much at your fingertips, like the world's your oyster. But that's because I didn't have that. Growing up in apartheid, we just had school and home. That was it.
I love your story. I mean, I love the energy. I love the spirit that you have. And actually, it's quite interesting. How do you think where this entrepreneurial spirit comes from? From your father, since he actually followed his passion, or from the thing that actually you were entering the adult life when the apartheid ended? Or like it's a combination?
I would say it's a combination, but I think a lot of who I am is because of my dad. He just instilled so much of like different values and seeing things differently. Although he was like, into medicine and I mean, he still practices kind of till today. Like just because he had COVID, he doesn't have fine touch in his fingers, so he can't like sew up people and things. But I mean, to work in rural Africa, he worked on a farm. Again, it was a beautiful experience for us because when we were young, his surgeries, his rooms were on, one was on a sunflower farm and the other one was on a millie farm, like a corn farm. And they were in remote areas. I mean, he kind of did his like community service for like 40 years of his life. So when I say my dad was a doctor, and yes, he did work in one of the biggest hospitals, but then when he decided he's done with all of that, he just wants to have a private practice in a rural area. And I thought that is so inspiring because not a lot of people will become a doctor and say, I'm going to go give free services or work for vegetables and look after people in the rural areas. So all his patients were farm workers. I mean, to run a practice in an area which he had no electricity and no running water for 30, 40 years, and he did it daily. He drove 80 kilometers a day, 40 going and 40 coming, to a little shack somewhere in the middle of a sunflower field, looking after the patients that are just on the farm. But then when he got COVID, he had to, because they just came there and said, doctor, they're not right, and he didn't know, he thought maybe, yes, it's COVID, but he can't just say, put the mask on, and he caught COVID twice. So he only closed his surgery in like 2020, 2021 because he's lost his fine touch. Is amazing. And then to come home and then give your whole, like, live your passion. And I think that's the thing. No matter how tough things got, he never closed down the school. And to put up a production every year for 35 consecutive years, every September used to be our main show. And we had like a cast of 400 to 600 kids, teaching them routines, training them, mom making costumes, me flying home. Even in the last 10 years, I was flying home every June, July to make costumes, like work like an insane person, make all the costumes, put on a production, just so our community could have like something to look forward to, and also instill that value in them. A lot of the girls that danced in our school till today, they keep that. So that kind of like still instilled in us that, like myself as well, like I cannot see my life without dance. And although I know I don't plan on performing, but I just am like, you'll really not see me in class unless I'm half dead and I cannot make it to class or I'm traveling. Other than that, you will see me, I'm consistent in class whether I know the steps or not. And I think that is because of my dad. Because he, after seeing all those patients the whole day, running from surgery to surgery and driving 80 kilometers, 3 times a week still running a dance school and working with 6-year-olds. Until now, he'll still be like, let's put on something. He didn't make it impossible. It was just like, this is life. And I think that's one thing I would instill in my kid as well. Like, always think of how you can give back. Always have that gratitude and give back. Be always kind. Doesn't matter if you're not an A student or whatever, just be kind. Be kind, use your brain, and be a good human.
Super inspiring.
Yeah, very inspiring. Well, it just sounds like a closing line to me.
I wish I heard these things, like when I was younger.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so wise. I'm a wise old woman.
And a quick reminder, this season is sponsored by Flower Wow, a marketplace where you can find the right gift for your loved ones. Download the app through the link in the description. Use the promo code CULTURE, it's CULTURE, to get a 15% discount on anything you want. This discount works until December 2024. By supporting our sponsors, you support us. Thank you so much. We will hear each other quite soon.